Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us. And I'm pleased to see you're looking healthy.
Well, thank you.
There was no need for you to go on the hunger strike. you were gonna go on a hunger strike over the Bill pulling property holes in the ground if the grates were not were not put on.
Well, you know, I was kind of looking forward to that because, you know, any time that there's a Red Barn barbecue, the post office downtown, Whataburger, Burger King, or some chicken to eat, you know, I keep going in there. Had I have been in the 9.5 foot deep hole with nothing but a gallon of water, it probably would have been better for me. But
no.
you know, yeah, I think it was the threatening of my hunger strike that pushed that one over the top.
Well, I think you made your point.
Our children are safe. This week, we had something that was very troubling that occurred.
Yes.
Folks, let me put it in a nutshell like this. Now I'm gonna holler and scream a little bit about how the judge took action, but I see developing a kind of two levels of judicial things that go on.
We're talking about the Sansom situation.
The Sansom trial,
yeah.
Right. You know, for example, if you're you and I'm me, and we're driving our car and it's our fault and we we do something reckless in our lives, we are immediately, are we steal some money from the PTO fund? You and I, folks, and Deborah, and Best Boy, and maybe even the dog, is going to immediately go into a courtroom. You're going to immediately be found guilty, and you're going to immediately make restitution or serve your time, because you are no one. On the other hand, the elite of our society, those who have been elected to a position, they do the same thing, except in the case of Ray Sansom, and look, folks, you can cut it in. I've watched this very carefully. I've read the vast majority of the evidence involved in this. There is no doubt in my mind, and I will say it's my humble opinion, but looking at the evidence that I've looked at, they were going to build an airplane hangar at a college, period, end of story. Now, the important thing is the hangar didn't get built, but it's still the action. Now, of course, Marcel, who is Bill Eden's right-hand man as the state attorney of District 1, he says you can make an attempted bribe, but as long as the bribe doesn't go through, a crime hadn't been committed. So we kind of think different up here in Northwest Florida. But Willie Meggs was prosecuting this case, and what frustrates me, folks, is we tied up the courts. We spent $300,000 in depositions and gathering evidence, and we aggravate some citizens, and we pick them for a jury pool. And one of the people that was in this, which was the college president, Mr. Richburg, who was the college president of this college, he had a change of heart, and he decided that he was going to testify for the state. So he's lined up as a witness to testify against the other two, which this is not uncommon. He realized that he was in a bind, so he decided that he wasn't going to stick with them. He was going to tell the truth, and he had to tell the truth. So we go to all of this trouble and these great links, and the news media is there, and we got the jury in the box, and we listen to everybody's testimony, and before the key witness takes the stand, the judge says, "Well, you haven't proved anything to me. Richburg can't testify. You haven't made your case." Well, dear judge, Richburg was the one that was going to make the case. Are you insane? That's the whole purpose of this whole exercise. But the big point here in all of this is we put on a show. It's like Romeo and Juliet. The actors are there, and we act like we want to do something, and we're going to hammer justice through, and we bring all the players together, and the world is watching on as this great play. Honest to goodness, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think they wanted to do anything to Ray Sansom but to publicly humiliate him. And they should have done that a long time ago. But I am happy to say that wasn't the only thing that Mr. Sansom had his fingers on. That project never came to fruition.
Right.
They were allowed by this judge who wouldn't allow the star witness to testify. That judge said, well, fellas, it's been a long day. Go ahead and write me a check for $130,000 and pay back the engineering fees that the taxpayers are out. And don't do that again.
Slap on the wrist.
Don't do that again.
Yeah.
I thought there for a minute, I thought it was Bill Eddins.
Yeah.
I could hear Bill Eddins in that ruling.
They didn't mean to violate.
They didn't mean to try to steal $6 million of taxpayer fund. They didn't mean to get caught, is what the problem is.
Yeah.
So they write their check for $130,000 and off they go. But folks, and we've talked about it on this show, and there is one thing that makes me very happy about this country. Judges aren't the end of the story. And when I lay my head on a pillow every night, I am happy to know that just because a judge makes a ruling, that's not always the end of the story. Because the prison that's in Santa Rosa County had Ray Sansom's fingerprints all over it. It was a prison that nobody asked for. It was a prison nobody requested.
Including the Department of Corrections.
The Department of Corrections didn't ask for the prison. When you look at the records of the state of Florida, the number of inmates has been on a downward trend for the last 3 years.
Yeah, they can't fill it now.
Over and over and over. And then you roll in Geo making political contributions to the entire world.
Euphemistically speaking.
Yeah. And you folks, and me, and Deborah, and Best Boy, dog doesn't pay taxes yet, but I'm sure somebody's working on the dog paying taxes. We gave $100 million to a private, for-profit company to build the prison. Then we gave them $25 million to operate said prison a year. Then we gave them a no-cut contract through infinity to put prisoners in it.
Yeah.
There's a problem here.
Yeah, and then of course a cherry on the cake is then we say, oh well, the private industry does things so much more efficiently, and you know the for-profit, you know the motives make it so you know they have a motivation to do things more efficiently. Of course, it's ridiculous. They're subsidized every step of the way. Right. And there's no transparency like you'd have with
of course there's no transparency.
Agency.
I mean, folks, here's the perfect thing. When they first started talking about that prison in the private prison in East Milton, I walked up to the podium. I said, "If y'all have inmates that escape, what do you do?" "Oh well, we call the sheriff's department, and let them round them up."
Exactly. The cost of doing business, shunt it over to the taxpayers.
Exactly. But wait. Let me say it again. I am so happy that the judge is not the final say in criminal behavior in the state of Florida nor the United States of America. There are other folks that can look at this, and I think they should look at this prison deal. Nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. There was no need for it. And we gave out millions of dollars to a private for-profit company.
And now this is a completely separate issue from the original Richburg Sansom airplane hangar.
Well, it's just another one. It's just another issue.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, folks, over and over and over, this thing on this private prison was shoved in on Friday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. and had a hearing on it Monday morning. Don't tell me that we don't need to go take a very close look at this situation. You know, it's just a...
Well, there are definitely some unanswered questions. You know,
huge questions that need to be answered.
Well, and the other thing we need to mention is that judges are also not the final step legislatively either. Right. You know, if they pass a I'm not talking about the criminal side, but on the civil side.
Right.
And I'll bring it back to my favorite subject, with what I would call judicial corruption, which was a Strand case.
Exactly.
Where they ruled that a TIF district, which is a tax that you don't vote on, is a tax, and therefore you should have to vote on it.
Right.
Citizens should have the right to vote on whether a TIF district is established that'll tax them extra. They voted that yes, citizens have the right to vote, and then a couple months later just turned right around and corrected themselves, reversed themselves.
Right.
The Florida Supreme Court I'm talking about.
Yeah, without a case in
With
front
2
of them.
cents, yeah.
Just decided
Yeah.
to do it.
And one of the justices actually said the developer lobby got to them.
Right.
This is a clear case of,
Right. And
coercion.
folks, while we're talking about judges and things of that,
But my point is now the legislature can go through and they can,
And
if
correct
they
it.
want to, they can pass legislation that will completely clarify that. They haven't done that yet.
Right.
We haven't heard anything about that yet.
right, I've taken a great interest recently with when Charles Kahn put in to become a federal judge, and folks, by all means, sit down at your computer, open up Google, type in Charles Kahn. I'll let you be the decision maker on what kind of a person this is. Read about him and tell me if you would like him overseeing anything in our society. But because of that issue, I've taken it upon, I've started a quest. The judicial has given me a reason to live. Not specifically the judicial, but the qualification committees and all the little secret societies who decide who our judges are going to be.
The Bar Association.
Bar, yeah. And in this Charles Kahn, for example, we found out that Sue Strawn, Channel 3, was one of the sitting members on the deciding board.
Yeah.
And her and I exchanged emails, and she flew at me a little bit, and I flew at her a little bit. Bottom line is, she wouldn't tell me how she voted on Charles Kahn. She was sitting in the room. There were 64 other candidates in that room.
Yeah.
Most assuredly, 63 of them were more qualified than Charles Kahn.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. And Judge Kahn, I hope you're watching this, because record speaks for itself, sir. So she refused to answer. So I sent it to the station manager. Now the station manager and Mr. Cole, Terry Cole is his name.
Yes.
Been very nice about this. I simply asked that since Miss Strawn is a news person, since your TV station portrays itself as a legitimate news source, I ask how your news person voted on the 64 candidates and what the voting was and how Charles Kahn got to them. Well, they're going to try the ignore Jerry button.
Yeah.
And I got some bad news for you, Channel 3. I don't know that I'll ever get the answer, but I can tell you what, you ignoring me on the email is not the end of it. There's many other places that I can go to get that answer. And if it comes down to Jerry Cooey in his pickup truck with a gigantic sign out in front of Channel 3, if that's what's necessary to get the answer from Channel 3, I don't have a problem with that. I've got the time. But I started looking.
Maybe a hunger strike.
I started looking at all of these review boards.
Yeah.
Now, the state of Florida has a very large grouping of people who pick folks from the state of Florida for federal positions. So I sent them an email. Dear JSQ, qualification. I had the whole list of names. Please furnish me with the email addresses of each of these members.
Which ought to be public record.
Which ought to be public record. The response that I got was, these people work as a board, and me talking with them might somehow the world would come
Right.
to an end if I had a conversation with
There's
one
some
of them.
Heisenberg principle at work where you're going to impact it if you observe it.
I'm not allowed to talk to these
Yeah.
people because they are above me in a social strata that I, Jerry Cooey, may affect how they pick someone, and therefore we are not able to fill your request. Well, sent them an email today and said, well, thank you for your time, but you will have to give me the basis of your opinion.
Right.
Those are all, folks.
Public records.
Look, here's the bottom line with J.D. Cooey, Santa Rosa Week TV. This is how I view life. I pay for all of this mess. I pay for the county government. I don't directly pay for the city government. My father does. I pay for the state government. I pay for the federal government. And every single person who is involved in that, whether they get paid or whether they volunteer, I have a right to know what their involvement is in all of it. And when they send me emails like that, we're sorry, we won't be able to fulfill your request. It just throws gasoline on the fire for me.
Yeah.
I will get, they can either give it to me or I will start Googling every one of them. I will find the towns that they live in. I will go find them. You know, either way, those folks need to answer to the people.
Yeah.
These double secret handshakes with behind closed doors and double top secret probation about who's in the room, that needs to come to a close. I'm done with that. If a man or a woman wants to become a judge, if they want to increase their position as a judge, they should just as easily stand before the people and be counted out in the open, should they be counted behind closed doors in a secret society. That's my point, folks. And you can get on www.santarosaspeaks.com. I have a thread on there, and everything that I send out and every response I get is going to be there. Now, I will tell you, and Alan Isaacson said one time that I really feel the same way. When I decide to bite on a bone, you can rest assured I'm gonna drag it out of the yard. This one I'm gonna drag out of the yard. I am tired when I see folks like Charles Kahn that becomes a federal magistrate who is committing adultery against his wife, who his fellow judges in open court said they were fearful of him, when 12 of his peer group members votes him down as the chief judge in the state of Florida, when he has adulterous affairs with subordinate employees, and those pictures show up on state-owned computers, I don't believe that person is in any position to sit in moral judgment seat over anyone. And that's what's got me fired up about this.
Yeah.
And folks, in 2012, the closer we get to it, we are going to vote out every judge that's up for retention in 2012. I'm voting no on all of them. I've been voting for no for all of them forever. It is time for some folks to get on the bus with me. We need to clean house in that bunch too, to let them know it can happen to them.
Yeah.
Whew, that was a long rant.
Well,
I'm sorry.
again, and I'll just reiterate, the legislature needs to take a little more of a proactive approach when these judges come out with these decisions. I'm not talking about the criminal side. They need to go in there and they need to correct the problem. You all remember the Kelo case with the U.S. Supreme Court where they said Team Santa Rosa Economic Development can take your house if somebody, if their buddy likes it for his business or whatever, they can take it.
Well, they can make more money if they push your house down and put a high rise on taxes. So i.e. they can take it.
Yeah, and the follow up to that was that the states needed to pass legislation that said you can't do that, and some states did, and some Florida did, but we had a lot of there's some loopholes in what was passed here.
Right. Well, and Greg Evers got all he could get through.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got all he could get through. Well, another decision recently, folks, is your right to speak at a government meeting.
Yeah. That was a farce.
We've got a Nescamia County judge that says the Sunshine Law doesn't specifically say speak, so
Although it says participate.
so move along. The DCA says no. In the Supreme Court of all people, won't even listen to the case.
Yeah.
But you know what?
And the legislature is doing a crummy job of getting a law passed that clarifies that you can speak.
Well, they're not going to do anything about it. But I'll tell you what the folks are going to do. And I'm going to tell you what the folks are going to do to that bunch in Washington D.C. They argued for 5 weeks over cutting a grain of sand out of a budget.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
All right.
That's ridiculous.
And for anybody who's in office right now, whether you're at the local level, state level, or the federal level, if you happen to watch Santa Rosa Week TV, let me tell you, the freight train is coming, and you fixing to get run over because the foolish spending, has got to cease.
Starting with Iraq and Afghanistan.
The idiotic laws of, I don't even recognize Tallahassee, Florida anymore. Are you kidding me? The federal government argues for 5 weeks for a $31 billion cut and on a $1.9 trillion budget.
Ridiculous.
All right. We the people. Look. Good job. I don't know if I've said this. Good job, folks. We replaced about 115 folks in Washington, D.C. in this last election. I think we should set our goal for 535 this year. In the state of Florida, we probably need to set our goal somewhere in the neighborhood of, about 215. All right? Honest to goodness, I'll take a kid in high school that's bagging groceries at a grocery store and stick him in a management position over what I got right now. Law after law after law that abuses us.
Yeah.
More restriction, more taxes.
Yeah.
Got your idiot president gets on TV and wants to reinstate the Bush tax cuts.
Well, he never pushed for it though.
And increase and put more taxes on it. You know, I'm sick of it.
He reinstated the Bush tax cut. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The tax cut.
No. Today's speech is, I made a mistake.
Oh, right. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I made a mistake.
Well, he did make a mistake, but he taxed the wealthy is what he needs to do. But that's what
ladies and gentlemen, we need to take this right arm right here. And we need to put it on the edge of the table where all the elected officials are sitting. And we need to take that arm and we need to rake it across that table to the other side till they're all done. I don't care if it's an 11th grader that gets elected as mayor, town council, county commissioner, U.S. House of Representatives, or the U.S. Senate. I will guarantee you that they will make better decisions than some of the fools that we have in Washington, D.C. today. I'm sick of it. And the only way, replacing 115 of them didn't send a clear enough message.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to have to get rid of every last one of them. There are some up there that are trying to do the right thing. I understand that. There are some. There are a handful that are trying to do the right thing. But the U.S. Senate is a cesspool of stupidity. Need to wipe it clean. All right. And the legislature in the state of Florida on the Senate side and the House side has never had a proper house cleaning.
Oh, they're god awful. Yeah, they're terrible.
They have not had the kind of house cleaning that they need. I mean, you got the Speaker of the House, Kahn. He wants to politicize the Supreme Court again and start forcing them to. Unbelievable. Everything that I see coming out of there is obtuse to my thinking.
Yeah.
Reduce departments. On state level, here you go on the state level. Take the State Department of Education with your right arm, rake it off the table into the trash can, and let local communities take care of their own education. That'd probably save $2 or $3 billion right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need a Department of Education.
No,
but
you
then-
don't.
But then we've seen them foist the FCAT on people. I mean, we've seen all kinds of
More bad than good.
ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot
More
of
bad than
we've
good.
seen a lot of bad come out of there.
Yeah.
But that's a problem with the elected officials who oversee them. The Department of Education is only going to do what the governor and whomever else is telling them what to do. That's what they're going to do.
They need to quit meddling in it.
But it's ultimately that's their elected bosses are who are meddling.
You know,
I mean, if there was political leadership from the beginning, there never would have been an FCAT in the state.
we
wanted to-
have people that have been in office a long time, especially federal and some in the state, that their logic has become so twisted.
Oh yeah, there's no question of that.
You know, 7 years ago I voted against you, so I know that on this one you're gonna. Forget
right.
that.
Right.
What's best for the citizens in my state? What's best for the citizens in the United States of America?
Well, the problem is what's best for some citizens is not what's best for other citizens.
The one thing that I have beat to death, that if when you're an elected official, if you will do right by the majority of the citizens, you will get reelected.
Right.
Quit becoming a prostitute for this kind of idiotic behavior.
Right.
The state of Florida financially is in bad shape. The United States of America is in bad shape. Of horrible shape. It's not time to spend 5 weeks arguing over $30 billion. We ought to be talking about $250 billion being cut. But
well, we ought to be talking about the rich paying their fair share, but that's another discussion.
I'm feeling an aneurysm coming on, Deborah.
That's another discussion.
I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Good night.
Of all the things that I've ever watched occur in Santa Rosa County, I've never seen us extend so much effort for a multi-millionaire who owns a private island off of Honduras. We've got staff working on this project, and we've got this group working over and over and over. If he wants to develop his project, let him develop it. I don't believe that the taxpayers of Santa Rosa County should be on the hook for one thin dime of this. Mr. Pullum certainly has the means to do whatever he wants to there. We've given him the permit to do it. Why? I just don't understand. I have to express my frustration over why we're even having a conversation about this. If I want to build a house, you guys give me a permit and I go build a house. We don't spend day after day, month after month, meeting after meeting to help someone who has the means to help themselves.